And oh, thank you, Daniel. So games just know how to make us pay attention and how to keep us engaged for long hours. The endless hours on end. So, which is why it's so interesting, like to think about, and I think that's why games are such a great source of inspiration for motivating and engaging people. So this is the group hunt, the beginning of the call. This will be the only group hunt breakout session that you're going to have. So make the most of it. 10 minutes. And I'm curious for you to discuss what makes escape rooms so much fun. I know not everyone would have played or been in an escape room, which is fine. So escape rooms are essentially, if you've never been, is a multiplayer in general. You're locked into a room. You have about 60 minutes to get out of it as a team. You have usually multiple doors to open, multiple rooms within the space. And you need to, work with your team, find the clues, unlock doors, and find your way out. It's very fun if you've ever been in one. But if you haven't, try to imagine it. Worst case, think about Monopoly or Tetris. I think everybody's played Tetris at some point in their life. So, yeah.
Brandon and Scott, did you catch the prompt? Were you here? Did you catch the prompt for like group chat?
Yeah.
Okay, because I saw you both pop in. So we're throwing people into rooms to talk about escape rooms and why they might be so fun and to allow people to connect. So I shall throw you in. Welcome back.
Everyone. Okay. Let me share my screen again. I hope that was fun. Hunting for what makes escape rooms fun. So I'm curious just to spend a few minutes to talk about what you found in your group interesting, insights about what makes escape rooms fun or any other games. What really makes them, makes us tick. Just feel free to unmute and speak.
I'll jump.
I think, okay, go ahead. I was just gonna say, I think Eric has an opinion. I just knew it. I felt the vibe.
Because I always have opinions on everything. But one of the things that were shared, it wasn't one of the things I shared, but I appreciated. And feel free to chime in and add context. I'm sorry, I don't remember who said it, but was about how everyone can bring something to the table because there's so many different skills. And so it really gives everyone a chance to participate. And I never really thought about it like that. I thought that was super valuable insight when you're trying to think about building inclusive experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there were a bunch that we talked about that were really about like group dynamics that were super interesting. One of them is like it reorganizes the hierarchy of the group. Like nobody's seen as the leader or the expert like right off the bat. Another one is somebody, I like this phrasing, that it's like speed running friendships. You get to like basically collaborate with people in a very fast kind of like tight knit way and see how you interact. There's a lot of banter and like a collaborative, kind of play that comes from that. And then as Danielle noted, you don't even need to speak the same language. She did it with her French team, and there's a lot of pointing and gesturing, so you can come from like there's very different backgrounds and kind of all have the same sort of interaction.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for sharing. So yeah, that's all very interesting. And I just think that people understand games and what makes games interesting and engaging, but for some reason, gamification itself is very much misunderstood. Most people tend to associate gamification with points, badges, and leaderboards. Whenever you want to make something, gamify something, let's add some points. Let's create a leaderboard. That's what happens when we try and gamify things. But in reality, these elements really make up the shell of the experience and have no meaning on their own. No one really plays a game for the badges, the points, or the leaderboards. None of you brought those things up in your conversation about what makes games interesting. I know escape rooms, I guess, don't have points, badges, or leaderboards, but it's just, if you consider any game, it's really not the first thing that comes to mind. It's not what makes the game fun. And because people play a game when it satisfies something deeper, where the gameplay is rewarding on its own. We play games for the fun challenges. In the case of escape rooms, again, it's just challenging, it's interesting, it's fun to solve something. The unpredictability, I can't remember who it was who mentioned I think it was you, Scott, that we don't get the as much surprise in the real life, but in an escape room we get we don't know what's going to happen, so it's unpredictable. It can be just interacting with others. It's the social interactions that kind of feel good to us. We're humans, we're social animals, and we do it because it just in my case, if you can solve a problem, it makes you feel smart, and that there's nothing wrong with that. So we like feeling smart. So yeah, when you find something that you're pretty good at, which also encourages you to get better, it's just hard to give it up, and that's what games give us. And gamification is really about finding inspiration from games and strategically applying those techniques and the game elements to non-game contexts to engage and motivate people. And it all starts with understanding what intrinsically motivates the individuals. Games come with no instructions. There are very few instructions, if any, in escape rooms. Tetris has no instructions at all, and it just makes us curious and paying attention. I think the fact that there aren't instructions also came up in one of the rooms, which was interesting. It's motivating because we like to figure things out. It makes us feel smart, and we learn games through trial and error. We try something. If it doesn't work, we try something else and something else until we figure it out. So when it comes to creating content and creating content for courses and learning, you want to avoid giving out too many instructions and just laying everything out for the students, because there is no challenge in that. And instead, you kind of want to think about how you can design experiments where people can try to figure things out on their own. That's kind of how I would think about gamifying in terms of instructions. Next thing is that the problem with a lot of bad implementations of gamification is that they focus too much on the outer shell of the experience, which is the rewards, the points, and the badges, but not enough on those intrinsic motivations and what makes people feel good. And it doesn't work because rewards don't rewards don't represent anything valuable, and they're not something people feel motivated by. What you can use leaderboards and badges and reward and symbols like that for are to represent the actual accomplishments of the user. They are symbols of people's achievements, but not achievements on their own. So if you're going to implement a point system or leaderboards, make sure that they are linked to people's actual accomplishments and not just some empty, meaningless activity that they've done. This obviously depends a lot on your audience too. Some people might run 5K and every day, this might be their normal, but for me, running 1K, that would be a triumph. So, give me a badge if I do that. So, it helps to reframe badges as trophies. Because again, you wouldn't give you wouldn't give someone who runs 5K every day a trophy for running 5K. It's just like that's what they do every day. And when it comes to leaderboards, think about how you can encourage newcomers to stay engaged, because if you have a global leaderboard that's been going on for months, if I'm new, I stand no chance to reaching the top, so it's just demotivating. It would be good to reset that every week, give everybody a chance to make progress, to make it to the top. So yeah. Games have intriguing stories. We're wired for stories. When story's good, we pay attention, we remember better. And games use stories to give context to the player's mission and to put them on a path. As instructors, you can use stories in a similar way to make content more interesting, but also more relevant, sharing anecdotes and real-world examples to kind of put everything in context. I don't think I'm good at telling stories, but it's something I'm trying to improve. I just think it's such a powerful way to communicate ideas and for learning. Great games, the best games don't let the player remain stuck in the game. We enjoy being challenged, but we don't enjoy being stuck. It's just not fun. That's why we get clues and hints. In escape rooms, you have a limited number of hints you can get to help you kind of move forward. But at the same time, you want to make sure that, but at the same time, they don't give you too many hints, because that will make the game too boring. If you can get hints for everything. People also just kind of like to avoid getting hints because they want to be able to figure things out on their own. Yeah. Yeah, I think the challenge and the excitement of solving problems is what makes the game really interesting and fun. So if you're trying to gamify your course or learning, it's good to think about your assignments and how you can create assignments that are a bit challenging, but solvable, maybe a little bit too challenging. Give people some hints so they can use it if they want to. The last thing I kind of want to talk about is the levels in games. So games often have levels of mastery. These are not just levels of progress. There are actually levels where players unlock new powers and new tools as they progress through the levels. They also include power-ups, which give the players a temporary boost to get through the difficult parts. So I think most people have played Super Mario. He's just regular Mario who becomes Super Mario with the super mushrooms. So, and similarly in like the Sonic, the Hedgehog, and even board games. So, a lot of board games that use dice. If you roll a double, you get to roll again, or some other benefit from the fact that you just rolled double. So these are just like quick level ups, like power ups that users get in games. And in the context of an online course, you might want to reward people who are most actively engaged by giving them extra benefits. These can include, exclusive Q&A sessions, one-on-one group coaching, place on the hot seat, and free access to future cohorts or course updates, and giving friends free or discounted access to the course. But the most important thing about this is that nobody can buy their place in this elite club. So to get access to any of these, the Q&A sessions, to one-on-one coaching, all of this, you have to have earned your place through your contribution to the community. Because once you start letting people pay to get a place, it just becomes, it's no longer exclusive. It's just like whoever can pay the most gets access, and that's not a fair way to do things. Actually, that last thing. So yeah, video games know everything about the players. So yeah, a video game happens in this controlled, closed environment, which allows the game to keep track of every single action the player takes. And this allows them to personalize the experience to each individual player. The real world works a bit differently. So since online courses and learning communities are in this real world, unless we are in some sort of simulation, somebody's simulation that we don't know about, it's just a lot harder to personalize and optimize the experience for everyone. We need analytics, we need data to be able to do it, and I don't really have a good solution to this. And that's one of the reasons, like, I'm curious about the subject, trying to learn more about it. I've only just started learning about the subject recently, and I'm hoping to learn as much from you as I hope you have learned from me today. So yeah, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Let's just have an open discussion, and at the same time, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, feel free to drop in chat or turn off your mic and hop in our small group so we can be a little chaotic in that way. I do have a question. Maybe I'll start. Merott or the group, do you think it's better that a community member knows what activity will get them a reward, or if it's like you only find out after you've done the activity?
I think it depends, like most things. I think people like being surprised with rewards, and it's just it makes for a good experience, like delightful experience when you just get a surprise benefit out of the blue, like finding money in your pocket. But I think also if you're offering benefits like one-on-one sessions or group coaching, or free access to future cohorts, it's helpful for students to know that that's what they will get if they do X and Y. So I think it really depends on the community itself and the course creator's intent.
Building on that, what are your thoughts on non-linear Easter eggs? So things that maybe aren't necessarily tied to any kind of like incremental success, but just like, hey, you found this cool corner of the game, here's a little fun reward for you.
Yeah. Um, I think when I don't know, why do we collect Easter eggs in games? I'm trying to think about, I think we kind of like to just, I think there is a curiosity gap, like where you're trying to kind of fill that, find everything there is. Some people are completionists. Some people actually don't do it. I'm the sort of person who looks for every Easter egg. And yeah, as Kate said, it's childlike. It's fun to be the one who found it. So, in the context of an online course, I don't know how, and a learning community, I don't know how well it would work. Like, are people really motivated by trying to find? I don't know. I don't think so, unless there's something, like there is some benefit to finding them. Yeah.
Maria has a question in chat, and then I see Tatiana's hand, and then I saw Pedro's hand. So Marie asks, do you have examples of well-known courses that do gamification well?
I think if you look at gamification as not, once we start looking at gamification as not just this idea of points, badges, and leaderboards, the whole concept becomes so much more broad, and you can think of a lot of courses that are implementing gamification. And good gamification is when you don't actually see the gamification in there. It's just similar to games, but like using the same similar techniques to games, but not actually game-like. So, for example, ship 30 for 30. What you have is, the community is quite strong. You get very continuous feedback every day from what you're submitting, and in that respect is very similar to a game where every action you take, you get feedback for it, and you just learn through practice. That's what ship 30 for 30 is. You learn more from the practice than you will from hours of instructional content. I recently took part in a less well-known course by Lawrence Yo. More to that, it's a course on storytelling. And again, I don't think it's been intentionally designed with gamification in mind, but being a storytelling course, what Lawrence does is he creates a world in which everybody's kind of playing, and that to me is gamification as well. Learning through anecdotes and metaphors and kind of going on this journey together as students. It's one of the, I found it quite an interesting course to go through.
Tatiana, you had a question?
Yeah, let me see if I can remember my question. It's nice to see so many familiar faces here. This question comes from talking to Charlotte, who I know a lot of us know, and she thinks a lot about learning outcomes. And I was talking to her yesterday because I'm shifting the learning outcomes and the way we measure learning in the course that I run from, I think we're too focused on like completion and what people are doing, and not as much like what that outwardly means for their life, like the results that they get from that. And I wonder if you have any ideas on how to measure that, like how to measure the outcomes and how to think about that as you're designing a curriculum to not make it so that like, oh, you watched all the videos, you must be an expert in this, but like you've actually implemented what you've learned And that's what it means to advance. So I wonder if you have any ideas or resources on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree that, completion rates for me are pretty much meaningless. And it's one of the reasons I shared just earlier that, we don't really have good metrics to kind of measure who's the most engaged in the course. I mean, community tools do give you analytics on who's engaging, who's interacting, but I don't think I think it's more of a qualitative question, which is why it's more difficult to measure. Everybody's needs are different, everybody's goals are different. And it's the same with the course, because not everybody, when I just talked about Ship 30 for 30, but not everybody who comes to Ship 30 for 30 comes to, build a daily writing habit. Some people do, some people don't. Some people just want to kind of engage with the community. So for me, I think like the best measure of success for a course is the success stories the creator hears and collects. So I think it's all about the relative growth of those numbers. Like, are you hearing more success stories today than you did a month ago, or depending on how frequently the course is run, or if it's a self-paced course. But in general, just the success stories that people are sharing, I would look at the course's success more as I would measure it more qualitatively than trying to get numbers out of it, because it's just, at the scale of the internet, it's very hard to do that with numbers. But I know people need numbers, and I really don't have an good answer for that. I don't know how to do this.
That actually kind of aligns with what we've already been doing, because we have this space in the community called mini milestones, and that's where we encourage people to share like actual milestones, not like I finished a video, but like I launched this thing, or I like did my community experience, or whatever it is. And I think that's a good, way of measuring. That is like telling little stories about the progress that they're making. Like that is I'm thinking about ways to encourage more posts in that space, and change everything so that like maybe if that's our goal, like that's like the end of the game. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Pedro.
Well, actually a question, but just going back on Eric's question about Easter eggs. It is, I was thinking like why members love like progress logs, why like if you play any game on Steam, you have like many badges, or any game, like the biggest games nowadays like have all this progress that you can fill and do many things. And I think that Easter eggs kind of help that for more advanced members, that they've done so much that they want to do something fun out of that checklist that they have to do, or outside that journey, just to have fun and then go back to the journey. But I think that having this kind of checklists in whatever course, like this is why almost every tool for courses, like when you complete a lesson, you go to 20% to 21% and things like that. Like it helps keep people on track and kind of happy to see that they are going somewhere. So yeah, just for on gamification, the suggestion would be like to have somewhere or somehow this checklist for people to know what's next, and like to celebrate with others how much they progress already.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people, I think different people are motivated with different things. So seeing having a sense of progress is important to encourage people to keep going. But And at the same time, at some point, it has to translate to some meaningful results for them, or they will just, abandon. So yeah, I think it's it needs to be balanced with assignments and experiments that are meaningful and lead to actual results for the students. Yeah, great.
Yeah, thanks for that comment, Drew, because I was going to ask, what about the people who fall behind and then it's like this is a competition and that they've lost and so they don't, jump back in? That's like a hard balance to make it competitive versus like collaborative and supportive. Does anyone do something already, even if it's simple? No, it's not. I wish. A little sugar throughout the day. Does anyone do something even simple that works in their communities or their courses
Specifically to help people
that feels?
to keep up or to catch up? Is that
Yeah, or
what you're
just in
asking?
general, just to share to see what else other people are using, what strategies.
Not in a course, but we're using it in a community. We're using gamification in a few different ways. I'm a homeschooler and my community is geared toward parents who use games in learning, which we call game schooling. And so as part of our onboarding process, we have a scavenger hunt. And then if members go through the process of the scavenger hunt, which is just a fun way to do your traditional onboarding, they get a badge saying that they did. And we direct message, which is a way to connect with new people. And then later in the membership, we have something called the Choose Your Own Adventure, which is our membership is opened year round. So there aren't seasons when we open and like new cohorts come in. People trickle in and people trickle out as they need it throughout the year. So as a way to make a cohort, we have them take a quiz through Try Interact, and it based on the questions, it plugs them into where they are in their game school journey and what their unique challenges are at each stage. So they got grouped in with it's their meeples, so they're by meeple color, and they get grouped in with people who are at the same stage that they are, so they can connect with the larger group and also with people who have more specific challenges and things that they're working on as they do. And then we also have badges, which they love. They eat up the badges, and they're in terms of engagement. We have one, the random act of kindness badge, where if a member helps you, you can nominate a member for a badge and they can receive it. It's community given. So they really like the badges. And we're looking at Easter eggs now. They want one. I just don't know what it would look like in a community, but I know that they would love it.
Yeah, I was gonna put Tatiana on the spot for her. She does that skills assessment and like matches people up based on that skills assessment. That sounds similar to what Kate was talking about.
Yeah, the way we match people into accountability groups is based on the My Snapshot, which is Charlotte's tool. And there's that. The thing that came to mind for me is actually this new onboarding that we've been doing. That is, I learned it from Will from email-based courses. So it's kind of like an email-based course, and it's I call it like a choose your own adventure onboarding, but there's really kind of only one path. They can kind of choose the speed at which they go through the onboarding, so they can like fast forward and get all the emails one after the other, or they can just wait and get an email once per day. And I've gotten a lot of good feedback when people get to the community, that it's like a slightly more fun way to like go through a lot of information, some of which is fun, some of which is like more logistical. So that's kind of a gamey way of doing onboarding. Yeah, that's Will's course that Carminder put in the chat. Highly recommend.
Curious to know, when it comes to onboarding, are there certain types of users that you find more engaged through that process than others, and are you able to identify who's more engaged?
Hmm.
Profile, not the individuals, but more kind of the generic profile of the people who are more engaged.
So I like this question. I don't know, but my sense is that there are people who just love this kind of thing. And like I do a course and a community that's teaching people how to also build a community like the one that I'm doing. So I can get away with a little bit more because people are using it as an example for something that they can do for themselves. But I find that there are some people who just kind of want to get it off the ground and they're just like, just give me the information. And then there are people who are more like interested in learning and like think that aspect of it is fun. And that's the people who will click on all the links and like do all of the things that are involved in the process. So I don't know if they're like two different types of people. They're at like different stages. Like I'm not sure like what the actual distinction is, but there's definitely like different types.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, you had your hand up for a moment.
Yeah, I use the product. I'm careful, Drew. I'm very respectful for you. I love what you've made of Burp, but I use your tool in my community. I also use another products tool that you guys don't do the same things, but you do kind of complementary things, and that's Orbit. And to answer the question, Merott, is I'm going to paste this in the chat. Orbit has a lovely open source, I guess it's open that you can read it, an Orbit model. And I believe, are you familiar with that, Merott?
I'm not a lot through Rosie, but don't know much about it.
I'm gonna try and give a very brief explainer, but essentially as community manager, you're the center of the community, you and your staff. And the people who are most engaged, most active are like your first level orbit, like your why am I thinking? I cannot even remember all the solar system and all the planets. Okay, I forget what the closest planet to the sun was. I know we're the third one. That's all I remember. But your first level orbit are the people who are most engaged. And then you have second, third, and fourth. Fourth is least engaged. And if there's no activity from the person within a year, then they're actually out of orbit. And I really enjoyed that. I really love that because then getting into more nuanced of the activity types that you can give points for people who say post or people who respond to a message with an emoji reaction or who actually write something, people who attend. It gets very deep, and a lot of this is stuff you kind of build with using the API. So it's kind of like low code, no code, well, more low code than no code. And I've been architecting this out and researching and looking and building. So I'm not at all on the other side of done, but with what I tasted so far, that was fantastic and helped me with understanding who's active, like who's doing what. And because I don't think this is accurate, but it's kind of a good guideline, is that 80% of the content is going to be done by your top 20% of community people. Right. And so it allows me to focus and help those who are orbit level 1 or most active and not worry too much about not spend too much time or effort on the outer orbit folks. Support the folks that want to be there. That's kind of to answer that question.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions at the interesting points discussion?
I think we're at the end. So thank you so much, Merott, and thank you all for being generous with your questions and your ideas. This was lovely. I've recorded, so I'll send out the recording after if you want to refer back. Oh, and check out Merott's newsletter and Digital Garden for sure. And there's a great article on gamification there too. Oh, check out Bird. Check us out. If you're on Circle or Slack or Discord.
Thank you.
Thank you, Merott. See you all at
Thank
another
you.
event.
Everybody.
Bye.
Bye.